Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are live on the Pre-Jump podcast, your official place to get some solid RSC news and a great breakdown of what's really going on in RSC. Joining me on the desk today, as always, we've got Mr. Rob making a comeback here and Moose popping in. How you guys doing tonight?
I'd say I'm grand. I'm always grand.
I'm excited. I'm having a good night. Excited to talk Rocket League, play Rocket League, everything about it. It's always fun.
For sure, for sure. And with the legacy of the Hat Night returning, everybody repping the hats tonight, you just gotta love it. But before we get too far into the willy-nilly, let's roll pretty quickly into our week 3 recaps. Let's talk a little bit about our standings, starting us off with Prem. We've got in first place, actually tied for first place, with the Crooked Capos and the Hurricanes. Actually flipping due to a little bit of a tiebreaker there. Then in third place, we've got Interstellar at 16-8. Fourth place is a tie between the Viperfish and the Tarbage Grucks at 14-10.
And
My
immediately what jumps out to me about this tier is that the Hurricanes fell down. You might be wondering how that happened. Yours truly subbing up from a 0 games played fourth man master, taking down the top team. What can they say? They're just lucky I didn't get placed there this season.
Normally we can wait about a tier before Rob starts homering, but
well, he's not even homering his franchise. He's homering himself.
This ain't even. Oh, I mean, shout out my franchise as well.
Okay. No, hold on. Let's talk about the Crooked Capos, who last season actually were in a bit of a struggle bus. They had a lot of turbulent roster adjustments. They were trying to make things happen, and they couldn't really figure it out this season. Really flipping it on its head. They are sitting squarely, tied for first. But I mean, it's an incredible turnaround. You don't get to see it a lot throughout this league.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say, so are you telling me that the Crooked Capos gotten things straightened out? They're no longer crooked?
Oh, we should tell Skimmy's got to change their name now to just the Capos.
This is my type of podcast. I'm excited to have you here, Moose. Actually, talking about these numbers, right? 19-5 in the top tier. That is crazy. We mentioned this the last time we went over the tier, but that level of consistently higher play than the opposition and at the highest level just doesn't come around much, right? Those Capos that you're talking about, we got 2 in the top 10 or 15 for RPV, and the Hurricanes is the exact same thing. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see moving forward which one of these teams ends up a little bit more on top.
For sure. And we didn't see it until, second to last week last season, where we really saw one, or I think it was, the Force team, right? Fairies? Really separating themselves from the rest of the pack really late in the season. So, I mean, you're right. We kind of just have to wait and see what's going to happen here between these two teams.
Well, that probably wraps us just about up for there. So, moving us into Master. Leading us off, you have the Tempests in first place at 18-6. Right behind them are the Care Bears with sole possession as second at 16-8. And this is new. You have a 3-way tie between third, fourth, and fifth at 15-9 with the Basilisks, Eggplants, and Heinous Henchmen. So jumping right off the page, that's a lot more parity towards the top than we had the last time we were here, right? That's 5 teams within 3 games at the top. Whereas I think it was... whatever it was, a little bit less than that last time we talked about it.
Well, we saw this last week with Master. There seems to be a lot of turbulence at the top where teams really seem to get to the pinnacle and then they just kind of fluctuate very heavily. What was it there? I just had it pulled up too. I think it was the Eggplants and the Heinous Henchmen were both actually higher on the standings. I think they were second and third at the end of last week. So this is one of those tiers when I was making these graphics that really stood out to me as holy cow, there's a lot of really close teams, and then there's the Tempests, just sitting above the rest.
Yeah, those Tempests, what can you say? They're consistent. And, I guess in terms of the league parity too, like you got the Tempest at the top, you got the Care Bears, not too far behind them. It's only a couple games, right? So just with how the scheduling could go one night, and that's a switch up. But then you got a 3-place tie for third, or a 3-way tie for third. You got a 3-way tie for, what would that be, sixth? You got Feta Forgers like dead center in the middle. You got another 4 teams, sitting just behind it. Like everything is very, very close between a lot of teams, and obviously, as the schedules continue to go, we might see some more separation, or it just might be a crazy close like 6-way tie for that last playoff spot at the end of the season. I don't know. It's been a fun tier so far, so we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a tier that's excessively close at the very top later on that we'll talk a little bit about.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, the fact that one match day can split 2nd and 9th, or let's call it 13th and 6th, right? So you have that entire middle of the tier just being able to flip on its head right away, and that's, I don't know, that just doesn't usually happen in these higher tiers. As we were talking about with Premier, you have those 2 teams at 19 and 5 looking like they're a little bit above the rest, right? In Master, having a little more parity than the tier above, it's just not usually that frequent. It's not usually that common.
Yeah. And what's nice is, as we get closer and closer to that playoff run, it's going to put a lot of pressure on teams. So we'll kind of see who can come in clutch, who might fold at the end. It'll make our matchups of the week a lot more pressure based, which will be cool. Excuse me.
Let's go, Moose.
See, I'm cooking. Nothing great, but I'm cooking.
You know what I would love to see you cooking. I would love to see you cooking that elite standings, my man, right there.
Do, man. I had such a good transition too.
Oh man, you're gonna make me do this. All right, so
yeah, we
here we go. We are in elite. So in elite top spot, we got our Goombas at number 2. Well, technically, right with them, number 1. We also got the Pixel Picassos. We got Midnight just behind them. We got the Slugs behind, the Slugs tied with them, and we got Fire tied with them. So I think this was the spoiler you were referring to there, right, Boss?
This is not the spoiler I was referring to. Whoa. There is a closer tier at the top than this.
You've got to be kidding.
I'm not. It is wild to see 5 teams all within 1 game of the lead. I don't think last season we saw this level of parity. We really saw, you guys could actually both speak to Elite last season. We had 3 teams that were at the top all season and really looked like the soon-to-be kings of the castle. But, obviously none of those 3 teams won. Congrats, Moose, on your 4th chip. But, but it was... It's wild to see any tier like this where the first 5 are within 1 game, and then legitimately one match day, the 10th best team summit. We talked about teams so close. So
and then there's 5 teams tied right behind them, and then 6 teams tied right behind them, like 1 game. So I don't think I have ever actually seen. I don't know what could possibly beat this because it's 5 games separate or 1 game separating the top 5 spots, right? I don't know. The standings are, other than the top 5, right, that are really pushing ahead. The middle of this tier is anybody's game. It's really wild to look at the numbers here.
Yeah, and what's nice too is when you start looking at the divisions, at the conferences. Every now and then, granted, it's still somewhat early in the season, but every season it always seems like, there's, like last season, you had the Sloths in their division, and then in the other 3 were not the Sloths, right? And then, same thing. And then certain divisions get packed full with really, really close teams. And then you got the one division where you got, I don't know, like the Kansas City Chiefs and then just everybody else, where they're just smoking everybody. But if I'm looking at the divisions right now, every single division you've got at least 2 to 3 teams that are in very, very close contention. You know, actually, I would say Summit, yeah, Summon and Fire might be the most like, you know, not egregious, separated conference at 17 wins, 14 wins for first and second place.
Well, Lunar Ocean is like nuts. Like when you look at Lunar Ocean as a whole, Ghastly Doomers are 18 and 6, Sauntering Slugs 17 and 7, Teddy Bears are 15 and 9. Like they're taking up 3 of those 8 playoff spots currently.
Right.
Like it hurts to be the Thunder because you got to go against 3 just absolute units in their own division. But if the season ended today, the fact that the Surus are 13 and 11 and they would not make playoffs is nuts.
They also started out, I think, 11 and 3. That can't be true.
I was gonna say that's 14 games, my man.
No. They I think were tied for first in Elite the last time we looked at the standings.
Let's see.
So for them to have that drop, 11 and 1 start, maybe, I think.
Well, it wasn't quite that good. They went 3-1, 4-0, then they got 0-4'd.
Okay, so it was that 7 and 1, and then they started to fall off a bit.
And then 2-2, then 2-2, then 2-2. Yeah, so they got you're right. They got off to a hot start. It just didn't last quite as long as we thought.
Renuku in chat says that they started out 11 and 1.
That's unless he's talking about another team. I just control F their schedule results.
Yeah. Did we?
Never mind.
He said never mind. He's on the team, which is funny. He literally.
I can relate because there are certain match days I either don't remember or don't want to remember due to various substances and or results. So,
have you been
I won't
using
blame any.
Speed again, sir?
No, we are the Speed Demons franchise, but
No, because I've got the need for Speed here. Talking about veteran here as we talk about some veteran top 5s.
That is boss.
God.
I love it.
I love it. Sitting in first, though, staying in first, we've got the Sea Devils, 19 and 5. Then second place, we've got the Need for Speed from the Bakery at 18 and 6. Moving up into second, Cthulhu Blues Gorillas, all tied at 17 and 7. And my man, this is going to be the first of the Bakery teams you're going to see at the top of these top 5s. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, they seem to be putting in some work right now. I'm sure that we'll get to them as we talk about more of these tiers. But again, you have 5 teams in this tier that are at least 17 and 7. You have that one team, the Sea Devils, that are 1 game ahead of number 1 in Elite. But it is still just so close throughout the top 5, right? And immediately what jumps out to me is you have 2 17 and 7 teams on Solar Cloud. So that's going to be a very, very tough draw for whoever ends up second, right? You're going to get the 5 seed in playoffs. I mean, obviously we're looking ahead, right? It's still very early in the season. But let's say that it ended today. You're 17 and 7 and you're the 5 seed, right? You're 5th overall in the entire tier and you're the 5 seed in your own conference. I don't know. So that looks like it's going to be very tough, but there's a lot of teams right in that middle spot again with either 13 or 14 wins.
And the other fun thing too about those 2 teams tied in their conference, I'm looking at their conference wins and losses. Those are identical. Division wins and losses, those are identical. I don't know what the head-to-head was, but again, you start running into some fun tiebreaker scenarios as you run towards the end of the season. And unlike Master, where we only play everybody once, these guys get to see their division mates twice. So it could very well come down to you wind up with an aggregate 4-4 against a particular team, and then you're rooting for your other division mates who might be towards the bottom to then go ahead and just sneak out an extra win against the against the guy that you're tied with. See if you can math magic those standings.
For some reason, if I go to the schedule and reporting, right, it says that the Gorillas 3-1 the Blues. However, the Blues are listed as first place in their division.
You
So that's
are.
interesting.
Let's see here.
So if it might, I guess head-to-head can't be the first tiebreaker,
Well,
or
it
it's
is.
populating incorrectly,
Uh,
or just
it,
as it doesn't populate that, which is also fine.
right. It may or may not. It may or may not account for head-to-head
Yeah.
in the standings. I know as
But
we
that's
get
something that's good to know moving forward, right? As we look at these, if we that'll just tell us that we need to dive a little bit deeper into those matchups that are tied at the top of those divisions.
Yeah, and as we get towards the end, I start doing my playoff scenarios for each of my teams. I'm gonna be like, all right, listen, this is where you stand. You are, you're
Yeah.
down to them. You're down to them head to head. So you got to be able to at least 3-1 them here, and then you got to hope that let's say the Maestros takes an extra game off of Blues or whatever it is, and then you're cooking, then you're business.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you don't. Well, it's going to happen to most of the GMs. Is there's always going to be one team where you're looking at them and it's like, well, guys, you tried, you did your best. Go play spoiler or run scarab for your last game, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Just have a good time.
Exactly.
Well,
Well,
Rob, you
yeah, I
ready?
think that just about wraps us up for veteran. Moving into rival. In sole possession of first place, you have Cursed at 19-5. Right below them, tied for second, 18-6. You have the Tardy Tortoises and the Vikings. Below them, in sole possession of fourth, are Necrotic Nerds at 17-7, and Swiss Swindlers at 16-8. And immediately, there's four teams tied one game behind at 15-9. So as we're talking about this parity, it seems to be a very common theme throughout all of our tiers, which shout out Numbers Committee for doing a great job with that. But a lot of these teams seem to be really, really, really close, and I don't think you normally see that.
One thing
Yeah,
I do
there's-
also want to point out, sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're
1
good.
and 2 are, this is actually probably the most stable tier. First and second place were actually in first and second place respectively coming into this week. So they've been stationary. This is probably the one tier I've seen so far where the tier actually seems kind of starting to settle. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you got first place holding first place. You got second place, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
chasing on their heels, but nobody's necessarily, they're not flip flopping each week, or in certain cases taking an absolute nosedive. But yeah, that was what I was gonna say earlier is, relative to last season, you had those gosh darn Sharks who decided, you know what, let's not even hit double digit losses until like the last week of the season. And while there's definitely quite a few teams that are still, absolutely just at the top of their tier, it doesn't appear that anybody's going to outright run away with anything, at least just yet. So it's kind of nice. As much as people complain about numbers, for whatever reason, they rolled the magic 8 ball correctly, and everything
Yeah.
seems to be working out quite competitively. Minus a couple teams more towards the bottom rather than towards the top, but there's still
But
plenty
even
of time.
so, you don't see there's like a one or two teams that are even like below like 8 wins in most of
Mhm.
these tiers, right?
Yep.
So it's, 6 wins, but it's looking pretty solid. What I do want to point out is Lunar Mountain, in Rival actually has every single team above 500 right now. 13-11, 14-10, 15-9, 15-9. The team that has the best divisional record at 8-4 is in third in their own division. It's a crazy, crazy division. And the one right above them has teams with 9, 10, 11, and 12 wins. So 0 teams above 500. So if you're in Lunar Mountain, you gotta really work for those playoff spots. Whereas in other ones, you might have been dealt a solid hand.
Yeah. Although I will say the 9, 10, 11, 12 is very visually pleasing.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree.
And I cursed in sole possession of first place, or they just possessing your soul in first place. They're
Whoa.
I got to shout out Dyer. She's hitting home runs in a couple of tiers, so hopefully she can keep that rolling.
What a shocker.
Yeah, I can't homer for my own. I can't homer for my
Yeah.
own franchise, but I gotta at least homer for my home, because she helps me pay his bills.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and by helps I mean she takes care of most of them. I run around and hit balls. So
That's fair.
Let's go. But you win championships, Moose. Come on, man. Don't sell yourself short.
I know.
Time.
I'm quite literally a trophy husband. What can I say?
Oh my
That's
gosh.
crazy.
We're
Get us
living
in the
dream,
next
man.
one. Let's go.
Take us away.
All right, what do we got here? Oh my goodness. Is it another bakery pun? Slice, baby. Back to the 90s. Oh my god. MC Hammer in those pants. Goodness gracious. So
You're
Slice,
so
baby.
old.
I really am. Slice, baby in first place. This might be the more commanding lead we've seen in a tier at 20-4. Toucans hot on their heels. 17-7. Abyss also tied with them, 17-7. The Starfish with an interesting logo are 17-7 as well. Go team. And then the Havarti Hustlers are 16-8, and I love the Hustlers logo. That's grand.
Yeah, I love that I totally, for the back three teams, totally forgot to shift their logos around. So it looks. Oh, God.
We'll talk to the graphics department. We'll get that sorted. Whatever intern did that, they're in trouble.
Exactly.
Fire today. Let's do it.
Let's get them out.
So, I guess we'll see if the bakery here, I guess these might be, these could be our sharks. They're going to be working with flour and dough, but they might put the clamps on other teams. Maybe they can secure first place. And keep it secure.
I'll be really honest. That Chally team looks nuts. Like, even watching them, like their replays and stuff, they're a really solid team all around.
Yeah. And the fact that they're 18-2 in their last 5, granted we're only match day 6, means their first day was a 2-2, and then they've smoked everybody, just the rest of the way. So it's you run up against the bakery, it's a little scary. They're gonna be turning up the heat. They're gonna be putting you in there at 350 for 4 games. I don't know, but I mean, again, you've got 3 teams that are tied for second place at 17-7. So again, if the bakery were to have an absolute oopsie and one of those teams, balled out, these standings can switch very, very quickly. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think
one thing that I find really interesting is this team is 20-4, right? Which is, I believe, the best record in RSC right now.
It's not.
And okay, it is not. Oh, that's true.
We will get there.
You're right.
We will get
You're
there.
right. You're right. There is one that's better. But it's up there, right? And we're talking about them being this just powerhouse of a team. And while their record certainly indicates that, usually if you have a record that high, you also have some players putting up some individual really impressive numbers. And while they do have a couple, their highest RPV on their team right now is a 73. And then their third highest is a 43. So with the Hammerheads, right, last season, we saw like 4 players with an 80 plus RPV. With that Possessed team a month and a half in, you had 4 players. I think they had 4 of the top 5, or was it some absurd number at like 16-4, letting us know that they were one of those teams to beat, and they ended up making finals, right? Hammerheads with those crazy records and the crazy stats had the run that they did and had the best individual season in RSC history. It topped it off with the title, right? So yes, this team is at the top. They are 3 games ahead of everybody already. They do have some It seems that Dates is just putting up
Dates
just
is
monster
yeah,
numbers.
he's been nuts.
But there's no one else on the team right now who really looks like they're putting up anything that's of the caliber of those other monster teams that we want to put them in the category of.
It reminds me a lot more of the season 16 rival champions, the Italian battalions. What was it? Can't remember their name for the life of me now, but they were a 4-person strong team, and nobody had an SPV higher than like 66 that year.
Interesting.
Like all in all, that team was really strong as a team as compared to really relying on like one person killing it, and then nobody was putting up insane numbers.
Yeah, oh my god, I got my whole Chally team in here asking
Yeah,
for
they
them
are.
to and honestly I wouldn't expect anything less. Listen, I love my guys. They drive me absolutely bonkers, but I love them. So yeah, I'll give a shout out to don't click. Oh my goodness, I gotta stop looking at chat. They're gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah, they will.
But I guess to finish up your point on the SPVs, sometimes with with those stats, being a team player, doing some of the more, I guess, your intangibles, positioning correctly, shutting certain things down in the midfield, right? Certain bumps at certain points, right? Or heck, just making sure you sit back and let your two aggressive players who won't rotate back go do their thing, right? There are ways to be a good player on a good team and not have a lot of statistical
excellence, if you will.
Exactly, right? Sometimes you just got to go out there and do your job, be a role player, right? And then, all right, for the Chally Glaze, listen, I got a couple of monsters.
Moose, what happened to your cam there, bud?
I am throwing, apparently. We'll work on it. We'll get in the lab. But yeah,
We'll
like
workshop
we pulled up Ari from Prospect because apparently the vibes are phenomenal with Oki and Iwu. Norcho has been just an absolute monster.
When you speak about those intangibles, he is the player that I think of more than almost anybody else that I know in RSC. He's the thinker.
He's
all right, fellas. We're already a half an hour into the podcast. We still have 3 more tiers to go.
He said no more glazing for you, Moose.
No more. Not tonight.
I've only homered once. Give me a break.
I was about to say, I don't know how you're getting shut down for the glazing with all of the talking that I do, but
I've just kind of been beaten into submission by Rob on a weekly basis, so I let it go.
Oh my goodness.
But moving us in, we're going to run through Prospect real quick. In first place, still sitting in first place, but now tied, we've got the Undead and the Spaghetti Scouts and Whiskey Business, all tied at 16-8. Tied for effectively fourth place, we've got the Funnel Webs and Darkness at 15-9. This is the tier I was talking about, where everybody is like right there at the top. All 3 teams are sharing the spotlight. Next 2 are 15-9. And then you got 4 teams at 13-11, tied for 7th. Like, this tier is, you're either tied for the best or you're like shortly behind it. There's no gap.
There.
Wow, yeah, you can read right down the list. 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. And then it starts to get worse.
Rapidly drop off.
Even there, it's only one match day separating the 19th team and the 11th team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's just those, and then from the 11th team to the first team is another match day. So you have a hot match week, and you go from 19th to the top of this tier. Like, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting to see how things play out. Right, when things are this close and this early, it's really difficult to try to make too much of the numbers. There's so much can change. Rosters, play styles, coaching, improvement, work schedules. There's so many variables to like how these things actually play out, and this is a really, really close tier.
Yeah.
I will say though, you have a few of the same names from last season that made playoffs towards the top. With the Spaghetti Scouts, Whiskey Business. I think those are the main two. And Undead was also very good last season, I believe. So the
Yeah,
top
'cause
three were. Do you know if they had much roster turnover? Those teams at all?
I'm pretty sure they did.
I know Undead got a few. I think I got a couple promotes, but they're all at least within franchise, I believe, for the most part. The one thing I was gonna say, and it's a little bit scary, is our boy Tech 4. He's a Bakrug right now, and our meme is what's a Bakrug. But Tech is a 4-0 away from start wandering into playoff contention, and then he's another good match day away from being, from getting even scarier. He's looking for his third in a row. He's gone from Ami, he's gone to contender. Can he get prospect? I personally, because I'm competing against him, I want to kind of like kick him and keep him back down there. But
Yeah.
I love my boy Tech, so if he does find success, good on him. I'll praise the wife yet again. She's commanded a solid team. And yeah, we'll see if we can get my anemones.
The inert ones.
The inert anemones. Hopefully we see some movement out of the inert anemones, upwards rather than just sitting there.
Rather than being inert.
Yep, exactly.
Well, speaking of Tech 4, let me take us over into Contender. And the team that Tech was on, the team that he has, and that was almost entirely brand new. I believe there's one returning player on Dagon, on pace to break their previous record they set last season, 47-9. They're 22-2 right now. Unbelievable stuff from them. So they're obviously in sole possession of first. Right behind them, you have 18-6 at Gluttony, or Gluttony at 18-6, Wisps at 17-7, Gallery Guild at 15-9, and then tied, you have Cheese Pizza and Ice at 14-10. So that 22-2's got to jump right off the page to you guys. Yeah, what do you make of that?
Those Dagons, they're at it again. I'm telling you.
Moose, I love it. Keep it going, man.
Listen, this humor only gets better with certain substances, whether either I'm indulging or you're indulging. One of the ways.
Yes, sir.
That being said, Tech as a franchise has done really, really well with the lower end, with the lower tiers. Those they've been absolutely smoking it.
Well, it's wild because this Tendy team is a total rebuild. Like, I think only one person stayed, and it was their fourth man, because everybody else either got promoed, or I think one was on the cusp of a double promo, but it just didn't go through. Like, this team being totally rebuilt, and now they're in the same spot they were last season is nuts.
That's nuts, yeah.
Yeah, so either, I don't know what he's, well, actually I do know a little bit, but like just the process for which he's getting those players, with him scouting, I think him just being also down there too, and just being in that in that tier last season gives you a lot of good intel on, A, what's down there, B, who's a standout, and then C, once you take the players that are either that are promotes or brand new to the league, and since you have really good familiarity with the tier, it's like, okay, hey, I just made it work with, this and this last season, hey, here's a new guy, he looks like he could probably emulate one of my former teammates, or, maybe even be better than one of my former teammates. And you're like, hey, let me sneak up in the draft and go get you, or let me open up a free agent, let me open up a keeper round for you. It's, again, you're like, when I'm in scouting for Master or Elite, like I've got good familiarity with that tier. You ask me about Contender,
Yeah.
I can't tell you a whole heck of a lot. I'm like, they're there.
Yeah.
I know Tech. I know my I know my wife. That's about it. Like, you
She's
know,
not Nintendo.
she used to be. She's
Crazy.
she's failing upwards or succeeding downwards. How do you want to put it? She's down to Amy.
I just
Oh,
want to point
goodness.
out, and we're gonna have to like kind of keep an eye on this with them being 22-2. If they can beat the season winning percentage for Contendi, the season after it gets reset by Tech 4 stack on team, that is gonna be like one of the shortest set records in RSC by far. Like
Yeah.
it's not even gonna be funny.
Well, okay, so there's a couple things that I want to point out about this. One, piggybacking off what you were saying, Moose, is that more than anything, if you want to learn how to win in Contender, there's not a better person to learn how to win in Contender than Tech, right? He just did it. Not only did he just do it, he just built the entire team to do it. So he knows, as you were getting at, what roles players need to fill, what weaknesses players have in this tier, what the strengths are that get the wins, right? Like you and I kind of we understand the nuances in gameplay between various elite players, right? And how an elite lobby, what it needs to look like versus what it does in order to be successful and not. And then I'm not gonna lie, like I watch a Contender lobby and I'm not sure like what equates, because you're not trying to play perfect Rocket League necessarily at that level. It's about doing the things that are effective, doing the things that are simple, making the game easy, repeatable, and being consistent.
Mhm.
And I'm not as well. It's been a while since we've been there,
Right.
and I'm not as familiar with the immediate changes or the things that can be done. Granted, my Contender team actually 2 seasons ago, I forgot they won. Shout out the guy on your Chally team, by the way. Your Chally team, Iwu. That dude
Yep.
was the goat for that season, and Iroh. But I don't know. It's really interesting, and I think you brought up a really fascinating point about how they can learn from the best in that situation right now. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that when we're talking about numbers, not translate like the wins, not equating to stats, this Dagon team just doesn't have crazy stats at all. One of them has a 60 RPV, one of them has a 47, one of them has a 43. Like the entire Wisps roster is above them, and they have 6 less wins.
I was gonna see if I could
True.
pull it up. I was curious to see if there's any easy way to just see if they had any sort of like fun goal differential or something that might indicate
Yeah.
why, because sometimes too, like some of those teams that don't really have a whole lot of stats, they're just doing, they're
I mean,
winning
they're
the
just
right
applying
way.
pressure. Yeah, what these guys seem to be doing is applying pressure. They have at first glance probably 3 of the top 10 players in shots right now. So it just
Well, yeah.
seems like they're
I mean,
just out applying
Heartless
pressure.
wins as 62. Lorik's got 56. Illusion Chaos has got 49. Like that's wild for their tier.
The sheet that I'm looking at has Lorak at 72, Heartless wins at 79.
The
and
auto
Illusion
generator
Chaos.
hasn't updated. Ooh.
Ruh-roh.
This is part of our matchup for
Yeah.
coming up next week. I don't want to get too far into it. We'll come back to this, but yeah,
My
like
sheet
you're
is right,
right.
according to chat.
They're killing it in shots. Like they're just peppering the goals.
And honestly, for those tiers, when I first started GMing, I had my buddy. He was my 2IC before they were AGMs. We just got a brand new Contender team, and the build style was this: he'd pop into a combine. He would take a look for about 30 seconds. He would observe, all right, who went to the ball and who hit the ball. And if they hit the ball, they were getting drafted. If they didn't hit the ball, they were not getting drafted. And we wound up having a pretty decent team. Started out in like first place, and then one dude had to go, perm FA for work, had to sign somebody else, and it fell apart from there. But, again, it's just, some of the things you look for. It's more just, fundamentals, basics. Can you hit the ball consistently? Can you, rotate into the net without bumping all three of your teammates
Yeah.
out of the net?
Do you know what the back post is?
Right. Can you grab boost on a semi-consistent basis? And, again, with the team building, do you have a player who's going to be consistently in net? Do you have a player who's going to be consistently just ripping shots at the post? Because eventually one of those things will go in. So
Hey, Moose.
Yo,
Would you say these would translate to Amy?
probably. If anything, they might translate better. I'm assuming there's going to be a graphic here.
Of course.
So mean. No. Well, jury's out on whether the logos are in the right spots, but we'll see how it
Probably not.
Intern, get him out!
goes. So, the biggest surprise about AMHE is that
Oh my
surprise is
goodness.
up there. Yep, I would say it's gonna happen. You can't, just like the Spanish Inquisition, you can't outrun the element of surprise.
Oh, no.
They are at the top of the leaderboard, 18-6. Nightfall right behind them, 17-7. Sloth, surprisingly not that slow. They are right behind them at 16-8. Bunts of Steel. Oh my goodness, there's a bunt place near us. I forget. It's a similar pun, but I'm gonna go look up the trauma on that later. They're in fourth. They're at 14-10. Praetorians 11-13. So this one's a slightly more relative to some of the other tiers we've looked at so far, where, again, Ami's a smaller tier. But in this particular instance, we have several teams that are in that playoff contention spot that are below 500, which for the most part isn't always the case. Some of the divisional conference-y things in the middle tiers, you can occasionally see that. But again, smaller tier, no conferences, just straight up you're playing everybody. So you got,
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say we got four teams up there, and then we got that are above 500. They're in solid command of first through fourth, and we got three teams that are just a little bit below 500, and they're all in contention. And then the three teams below them are also are only a single game behind them, so it's all tight.
That's what I was going to bring up, right? Like when we were talking about Prospect earlier, there was only 5 teams in Prospect that weren't positive, and this is like an exact flip. So there's only a third of the AMI tier that's currently positive. 2/3 are really just trying. I don't know if they're trying to catch their footing or if maybe these 4 teams are really just that much better. But it's insane when you see 2/3 of a tier in the negative this early, and some of them are still vying for playoff contention.
And I think and you'd probably have to go look at the schedule for specifics, but odds are is a lot of these teams right now, well, they ran into one, if not more, of the top 4 teams.
Yeah.
They may have gotten surprised, quite literally. So it's you never know when you're gonna get hit with some bunts of steel. I can go all night.
Somebody shoot me. Somebody put me down.
So immediately,
Oh,
I
God.
really want to point out the fact that Sloth is 16-8 and has had the strongest. They've played the hardest schedule in the tier, and they are 16-8. They 3-1'd. So if you go look at their record, they 3-1'd Bunts of Steels. They 3-1'd Nightfall. They 3-1 Sacrifice. Their only loss that I found right now of their actual losing a series is they got 3-1 by surprise, but games 3 and 4 were forfeited. So I think that there's a very real chance that this Sloth team, they've already beaten, I think is it all 3 of the top teams?
Yeah.
Besides themselves? Bunch of Steels. They lost to Surprise in that series where they forfeited, but they beat the other competitors that we're talking about right now. The only other teams above 500.
No, that's why a lot of people who have been around the AMI tier have been saying, hey, even though the Sloth are technically third, you got to keep an eye on them because realistically, they're probably the better team.
I mean, Nightfall has 3 of the top 4 RPVs. Surprise has 2 of the top 6. Bunts of Steel is there at 5 and 7, right? Like, so you have all of these individual stats coming out from the other top teams, and then Sloth's highest RPV is a 49.7. So, like, every player on their team is statistically performing below what is supposed to be average, and they are arguably the best team in the tier, and I find that really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's either. Yeah, well, I suspect it's probably because of the fact that with it being a smaller tier, smaller number of players, it's going to be a lot easier for some of those statistical anomalies to start sneaking through.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, hey.
Whoa, hold on.
What? Uh-oh, what'd I do?
No, just my sheet may be outdated. They have a 95 RPV on the other sheet. Let me go look at their sheet.
Ruh-roh.
Before we
Ruh-roh indeed.
Before we get like too far, I do want to throw a little bit of shade in here. I don't know if anybody from Nightfall or Slother in the lobby here, y'all didn't upload replays after your stream matches. You still have to do that. It's in the stats update channel, guys.
Boss, I gotta ask, was the shade on Nightfall, was that an intentional pun? Uh-oh.
I don't know if you no, I'm here. I just didn't know how to respond to that. I just
I was to say,
oh
you're
god.
spending too much time around me. You're coming up with them. You don't even think about it. It's crazy.
It's an infection.
You know.
It's a disease.
Uh,
But it is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like I don't.
My sheet has been wrong that I've been referencing. It hasn't been updated.
Oh.
Team. Uh-oh.
Rob's got
my
all the
numbers.
fake news apparently tonight.
I guess so. Holy
Rob's been
cow.
he's been spitting straight fire
Okay.
just like from 3 weeks ago.
Oh my god. Yo, you guys should have seen these games from August, man. It's crazy.
Hey, bro, did you just catch the Iron Bowl from 2013? Chris Davis took it to the house.
Yo, that kick 6 was crazy. There's no way Auburn wins, right?
Yeah,
that was
Hammerhead's best team. I like it, Thunder.
Oh god. Fellas, do you think it's a good time to roll into segment 2 here?
Yes. I would just very quickly like to say that counter to what I did say before, Sloth have 2 of the top 5 SPVs as well. So making up your top 7 SPVs, there's 2 RPVs, 2 players on Bunts of Steel, 2 players on Sloth, 2 players on Nightfall, and 1 player from House Salads with 3 games played. So it seems that the top 6 of anyone who's actually playing games are 2 of the 3 players on all of those teams. So it will be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Yeah, that'll usually help your team out.
Yeah. If you have the best players, you normally win.
Yeah.
But, ooh, goodness. Moving on to our next bit here, Rob taking a sneak bite. Let's talk a little bit about the stream matches that had on Monday. That would be, who was the first one? That'd be veteran matchup, Lightning versus Mean Manatees. 2-2 split, fellas. 2-2 split.
Yeah. I guess the mean and manatees is a math reference and not a attitude reference, because yeah, they were average.
That's so good. That was a really good one.
That's actually really good.
That was a really good one, Moose. Come on.
Like, I'm not even upset.
You want to know what's even worse is that after most match nights, Nuke is going through pre-calc right now, so he'll pop into our VC and then he'll ask me for homework help, and so after stream I told him on stream, it's like, listen, you guys got to get 3-1, otherwise I ain't helping you with your homework. you get 2-2, you can use me as a calculator, but that's it. 3-1 I'll teach you about related rates and the limit theorem, but we'll work on it.
You 2-2, you have to ask ChatGPT. You can't ask me.
Exactly.
I think last week, Rob, I think I predicted this to be a 2-2. Like, I'm pretty sure I predicted it to be 2-2 or maybe a 3-1 in favor of Lightning, because they were both like right in the center.
Yeah,
But
this was
still,
the super close one, right?
yeah, they're still pretty close in the center. Lightning is tied for 9th at 14 and 10, and then the Mean Manatees are tied for 13th at 13 and 11.
Yeah.
So like they were close coming into Monday.
And they had been on a 5 in a row 2-2 streak up until literally Wednesday. So I didn't realize how accurate my naming was. But yeah, no, it's good. It was a good series. It was fun. It was fun to watch. Slightly more frustrating as a GM when I see like certain opportunities go not my way. But overall, it's all players out there did a phenomenal job. Ace still impresses with just the sheer amount of shooting he's been ripping on there. He's been, he was getting his goals. Nuke.
Whoa. Something that's interesting. Sorry, I did not mean to take that from you, but he actually led the lobby in saves and had the least amount of shots in this particular series.
Yeah.
So what's really really cool about that is he's known to you for being this offensive monster, but if the lobby requires it, he's a versatile enough player, or they are a versatile enough player where they can affect the game in multiple ways. And so that means that you have a very valuable asset right there. And so I just wanted to provide that contrast.
Yeah. And, sometimes, because it's not often that you see your top shooter also be your top saver. Most players are known for doing one thing relatively well, and whether that's just kind of being a midfield menace, being an upfront striker, or being your turtle goalie. Even in some of the higher tiers where you're rotating through all three roles relatively frequently, you still have players that 100% gravitate to a certain stat.
Yeah.
And
Moose, you're to wins, I guess.
And the fun thing is this is another player that I've stolen from my wife. Ace used to be on her franchise. Come on, camera, you can do it. So it's like, when taking over as GM, it's like, all right, had Nuke as my only retaining player, and he was the fourth on a very, very good vet team that absolutely murdered everybody last season. Shout out to Rob for putting together a monster roster there. So it's been fun watching those two cook. I drafted Kodo on a naming error.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean by that?
No, it's a little bit of a
Oh
meme
my
because
God.
during the draft, Kodo was rocking a name, to blister #Nully, which is the same as one of our admins. So, it's the joke was, I drafted Blister, and then, just as a joke, I sent him a franchise invite and a franchise invert, welcome to the server thing. But TM's accidentally processed him as a player and not the guy we actually drafted.
That's funny.
Which was really, really funny to me. And what's it? And I'll give credit to the other team. Typhoon, I played against him in twos. Dude's really cool. He's a great guy. Cha was playing really well. It's just a fun matchup. Objectively, less objectively, I'm biased and I'm sad we didn't win it, but
Yeah.
we'll take it. We're above 500, and honestly, for this team, I'm super pumped. Because honestly, all you got to do is get yourself to the show. After that, who knows what happens?
Get into the arena. That's it. Make the playoffs. Doesn't matter. It's anybody's game. Toss up. 50-50. Rocket League is. You're not. Yeah. It's as simple as that. I also did want to shout out Nuke. Right. It looks like Nuke generated as many shots in this series as Kodo and Ace, his teammates, combined. And same with goals. So just applying a lot of pressure. Shout out Nuke. He didn't get that opportunity to really shine last season because he was behind two of the, I think, like top 5 elite players right now, or top 10 in RPV, with Chase and Fluffy, right? Like that's such a. And then Deer was a former elite player with like a 40 SPV last time he was there. So it's really cool to see Nuke getting this opportunity and really capitalizing on it. The most interesting statistical difference between these teams for me
Ooh, hold on,
is
I
the
want to bring up
shooting.
something on that shooting as well, because you brought up
Yeah.
Nuke for shooting. I'm looking at the ball chasing listing for Vet for the season so far,
Mhm.
and ball chasing has Nuke listed at 52 shots, which actually puts him at second for the entire tier for shots in Vet. And can you guess whose number one is?
Seems like a very low number.
Ace Cosplays TTV.
Go team. Also, really quickly for shooting, because we got Ditto in the chat. I will shout him out as well for that series. He was also a monster shooter. None of them went in, but we'll shout him out. But I will shout him out too. He also dined up his teammates. Now, whether they were all banged off the crossbar and they finished it for him, he was there. But he dropped 5 assists that night. Had 13 shots, only 2 goals, but he was contributing one way or another. So don't worry, Ditto, I got you.
For reference, that 52 number, that may be with the replay. We might just be missing a bunch of replays because on the
I
RPV
hope
sheet,
not.
there's like 30 players who have more shots than that. 70, 67, 64, 74, 68, 75, 68, 67, 65, 71. The leader has 85 right now.
If they haven't put all the replays in, that'd be kind of wild, because it's got the top 4 listed for the shots coming from Ace Cosplays, Nuke, Kodo, and then Typhoon.
So maybe they just have all their replays in.
All the replays are put into the system.
Yeah. There's even Ditto. Ditto on Lightning right now has 67 shots.
Yeah, it legitimately in the ball chasing group shows Ditto has 13.
Yeah, that can't be correct.
Yeah.
Oh god.
I think Ditto had more than 13 in just this single series.
Shots? Yes, he had.
Ditto had
shots.
exactly. So maybe are you? I don't know. Whatever. Point is that I really wanted to get to with this shot thing is the shooting percentage was very different for both of these teams. It did end up being a 2-2, but the Mean Manatees surrendered 10.5 shots per game, whereas the Lightning only gave up 7.5. So there's a 3 shot per game difference, but also almost a 15% shooting percentage difference. So the Mean Manatees shot 1 for 3, 33%. Lightning shot 21%. I think that if the Lightning were able to get a couple of those guys in, right? Ace coming up with those 11 saves, massive, right? That's where that difference comes in, right? You can afford to give a few shots if you have someone who's a wall and you can really turn that defense into offense quickly, right? So really capitalizing on the versatility of the roster there, leading to a lot of counter-attacking goals probably with that high shooting percentage. So good job from them. Also, the demos, the average was 5-1 in favor of Lightning per game.
Yeah.
Out demoed 4-20.
Yeah, they zapped him good. And again, to your point, we look, we look at the total, the total shots versus the total goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Total shots, like,
Yeah.
again, my team conceded 41 shots against them, whereas Lightning only took 30 against them. But then Lightning actually conceded more goals.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To my team's 9. So, that shooting percentage, is a big deal, and it's always like Rocket League is a really if you compare Rocket League to hockey, the stats themselves always seem to mirror really, really well. Because every now and again you'll see those, it'll be like, oh hey, Red Wings versus the Avalanche, going with a really old 90s rivalry, and you'll sometimes see the game. It's like, all right, Wings shot 40, Avalanche shot 25. Avalanche win 2-1 because at the time, who was it? Patrick Waugh was an absolute just monster in net. So
are we really talking about hockey right now and not the next matchup on Monday?
I mean,
I think it's valid.
I mean, we can do that too. More MC Hammer.
Buddy, it's been an hour and 4. Like I want this to end by at least the 2-hour mark. Come on, I don't want to go any longer than that.
All right. Well, let's say bye to this matchup and move on to the next matchup. I'm bringing another 90s reference just for Kenji. Yeah, more of my guys also on stream, also average. Yeah, this is why you don't
Oh,
stick a
man.
fork in it. This is why you don't stick a fork in an outlet. You get shocked. It's a bad day.
Oh my god. I really liked watching this matchup because I really have been trying to pay attention to the shock all season. After watching them play in match day 1 on stream, and we talked about how fast they were playing, they didn't look like, for at least what I was seeing the entire game, they didn't look like they were moving much faster than everybody else. It looked like a normal game for them. So I don't know if maybe that was just game 1 jitters, just diving at the ball constantly, but they played a lot more, I don't want to say patient, but just a little bit slower,
Yeah.
I find that so funny when you said slower because I'm looking at their average speed.
Yeah, that's
for
what
the
I'm.
series.
It was slower though, which is crazy.
Their average speed match day 1 was like 16:20. Like, it was nuts.
Yeah. To be fair, they're still moving faster than most master players.
Yeah.
Like I get they may have slowed down slightly, but respectfully, the bar is still higher, right? Like if you want to translate,
I didn't say they were playing patient. I just, they're just a little slower.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. But to be fair, they were playing the slow starfish, so it's hard to be any slower than they are. But genuinely, right? Like all 3 of these players are speedy and mechanical and can utilize that speed. So I really think that if Shock is able to just play a little bit more controlled, like they're going to start turning a lot of these 2-2s and 1-3s into better. Right? 1600 speed from a Chally player is so fast. That's faster than like any series I've ever played. It's probably faster than any series Moose has ever played.
Oh no.
What is your average speed, Moose?
So
14?
Master is the fastest I've ever played in a season at 1450.
Oh my goodness.
In Elite,
Demon.
in Elite, the past 2 seasons, I think my average might have been 1400 on a good day. I was frequently either sub 1400 or like maybe 1425, 1430 was kind of like the sweet spot. So yeah, the fact that I've even pumped up to 1450, and I'm looking at these, and I'm like, well, I got 4 out of 6 players in the lobby. Well, and the other thing too that just kind of astonishes me, because these are 2 stats I would assume would be correlated, right? You got you got Enigma going through at 1556. You got Jaggy at 15,
same
Yagi
thing.
at 1527, and Lilo is flying around there. Not saying good morning or good night in enough servers anymore, apparently, but no. You go and then you go take a look at his stat demos, right? Well, Iwu, who is one of the slowest players out there, dropped 8 on him. Like, whereas Lilo, who's flying around at the fastest in the lobby, he died 7 times, and you wouldn't think that would be the case. So it's just
consistency. Iwu's playing with respect to like where the ball needs to go for the next touch. He's not just sprinting at the ball. He's not diving, and it's paying off.
No, he's not sprinting at the ball. He's sprinting at the other players, apparently. That's
more. For me, it's less about the intent and more about it's impossible to see what's in front of you and decide what to do if you're always going super fast. Right? Like it's impossible to stop, read the play, and make a decision to do something else if you're always committed to doing something. Right? So moving around the field at that crazy speed, sure, if it's with purpose, then you start getting those demos. But if you're just driving in a circle really, really, really fast, it's pretty easy to just move out of the way. And that's how you can see Iwu 180 speed Unreal units slower than Lilo, having almost triple the demos. Right, an 8-1 KD for Iwu and a 3-7 for Lilo, with probably the largest speed gap, opposite of demo gap, in I've ever seen, right? Like, and it's also it's possible to be successful at any level at any speed, right? There's this
Right.
guy on my master team. His name
Well-
is General Zippy. His average speed is like 1380, right? And he's the best. He's like the best boost stats I've ever seen. And moves around the field slower than anyone I've ever seen. But when he decides to go for the ball, it's like that. It is fast. It is explosive, and it is the difference between always playing slowly and always playing quickly, but being able to turn that on and turn that off when needed. And I
Right.
think that's what in these lower tiers you see players pushing to try to create that pace and excellence that they see above. And sometimes it's easy to get carried away with, especially in a driving game with boost. It's easy to get carried away with going fast.
Well, and I want to point out, I'm pulling ball chasing numbers, so don't get me wrong. This is probably wrong. Like, this is probably wrong. Especially since it says like 70 people played for the Quasars last season. So.
Oh
uh,
yeah, that did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like last season, it shows that my average speed was 1574.
That
I
is
am the highest
fast.
tier of these three people, by the way.
Yeah.
Rob, you were at
1540, almost certainly. Every
yeah,
game I played was
1543. Like
Yeah.
1543. And then Mr. Moose, you were shit, it'll be easier probably just sort alphabetically, won't it?
Just
no,
sort from the
sort-
bottom.
Yeah, I would
Just
say
click the
sort
button
bottom
one
up.
more time.
Moose played
you've ever seen him play-
1435.
Yeah.
So like
so-
yeah, like I mean, and I'm gonna be honest, it's rough to play at even at 1574. Like that's what I'm used to, but I've got a lot more time in the game, I would say, than most people that are playing in Chally, and to see them
Yeah.
playing faster than me consistently is like, what are you doing?
Especially
Like-
when you're even playing fast for
Oh yeah,
like 1570 is speedy.
oh yeah.
And so like I agree. That's just such an absurdly high number. And like also it stands out to me that Oak averaged 93 seconds a game at zero
Without-
boost.
Yeah, that's
Over a minute and a half of the game, every game on zero boost.
Buddy needs to learn how to pick up pads.
Well,
Apparently,
I don't think so because he had 66 small pads. He led his
Yeah.
team
what is
in
he
small
doing
pads.
with it? Is he just
He's
as soon as he
using
get it,
all
he's
while he's supersonic.
He's doing
and he's
the
using it all-
ultimate. No, Rob, this is the ultimate boost management strat. As soon as you get boost, you spend boost to get to more boost.
That's true.
More
But
boost.
then you
per
have
minute.
more than zero is the thing. That might be the ultimate strat. But if you do
Oh,
that, you don't have a
God.
minute and a half as zero boost.
Yeah, it's and I mean also too, that's something else I noticed with the rest of the lobby. It's not just Oak. I mean Lilo, Enigma, and Iwu are all sitting close to a full minute without boost.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel super comfortable without boost, even though
Yeah.
even though I'm an old man out there with, slowing it way down. Sonny, what'd you say? I can't see you. You're
He's got
moving
his
too
left
quick.
blinker on, moving slow
Right.
on the left lane.
But I will also say too, like time zero boost is something you want to look at. But I always talk about to a lot of my players that I'm coaching the boost ratio, right? How many small pads per big pad are you getting?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're getting roughly about 3 small pads per big pad, I consider that a win because 3 small pads is 36 boost, and most players in this league are going to be able to do at least something with that, whether it be a challenge, maybe a shot, a short aerial. The better players can, get off the wall and really can do a lot with 36 boost. But if I take a look at, say, let's go to Enigma here. You got 23 big pads and then 47 small pads. That tells me 2 things. It's like, one, you're only getting 2 small pads per big pad, so 24 is a lot less resources to go for certain things. It also might mean you're spinning in circles either around, you might be playing NASCAR and going around the entire side of the field, or you might be spinning in circles in your corner while the ball is being shot at your net when you should, when you could be elsewhere. Not to necessarily pick on Enigma specifically, because I will 100% flame anybody who wanders into a replay review with me on that. But you know, it's always fun to take a look at the stats afterwards. You can see, you know, you can start to see what things got you in trouble and what things are just kind of, kind of an interesting stat.
Yeah.
I think, though, that wraps up pretty well Match Day 5. Match Day 6 is going to be a little bit more difficult to talk about since, once again, we don't have a ball chasing group to look at because replays weren't uploaded.
Whoops.
Good job, guys. I just want to... I'm going to keep, when I say brief, I guess, about this matchup. The fact that, yes, they played such a good team and then said, hey, we're going to take a 3-1 was nuts. Like, and to do it on stream is even wilder.
I didn't watch it, and there's no stats to look at, but the 3-1 there is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I'm very surprised that Nightfall lost that matchup.
Yeah. Sometimes too, when you're the big dog on stream, that's a tough mentality to come into there, because you have to come in with such a mentality that's like, okay, you're coming in with the idea that, yeah, you're coming in with the mentality it's like, okay, I'm better than the other team, but at the same time too is, you got a target on your back. The underdog has no, quote unquote, no expectations. From a outside perspective, they may place them internally. But you want to come out, you want to knock the big dog off his pedestal. And then when you are the big dog coming in there as the top, the upper team, the better team on paper, when things don't start going your way right away, that can be really, really frustrating from a mental standpoint. It can be kind of hard to reset yourself. You start thinking fun thoughts to yourself, like, why am I losing? I'm playing so bad. Oh,
we're supposed to be beating this team. What are we doing?
Right, we're unlucky. And that's why too, like, especially towards the end of the season when teams need those final few wins to, clinch a spot or, eliminate somebody or whatever. Sometimes it's those bottom teams that have nothing to play for and have a, a 2-sub roster because the other 3 have already torched it. Sometimes, you get some weird stuff that happens. So being able to go into a matchup on stream and staying mentally strong when things are just weird, it's not easy to do. So while I flamed both my teams in the previous matchups for going 2-2, I'm also happy they didn't do worse. So
yeah,
go team. Slow, like somebody sends chat. Slow and steady gets you. Slow and steady gets you to playoffs. I think. I don't know.
General idea, yeah.
Yeah. And as we talked about with these speed demons out here, which surprisingly wasn't my team. Again, you need time to process stuff. So.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the strat for being the better team. Just avoiding playing on stream. Just saying, hey, like maybe it'll be better for the league to play on stream, but yeah, maybe we should avoid the jitters. Try to get some extra dubs in the season. Finish strong.
Yes and no, because at least the one nice thing is that when you do go up on stream, especially now in the regular season, if you're one of those playoff teams where you're getting into the grand finals, you've knocked out all the bad voodoo that you've already that you had the first time around.
Did that work for you guys last season?
Yeah, because we got.
I didn't think you guys played on stream.
We did twice. We went against Rob's team, went 2-2, and then we went against. We also went against. We also went against the Knights the day before, or the match day before, also 2-2. So again, it's just and then Tex said he would never cast one of our matches again because every time he did, his team always just 2-2'd. Whereas, like, again, us being one of the, we weren't the top team, but we were one of the better teams. And
40-something wins on the season.
Yeah, and up to that point, we really hadn't even tied a series. Everything had been like a 3-1.
I'm pretty sure I casted that series, actually, with Tech.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. No, Yeah, so I got to go back and hear some fun things about my gameplay and my 2 teammates' gameplay.
What?
Oh yeah.
We would never say anything mean.
Oh you might not. Tech 100% would.
Oh, dude, Tech's so vicious.
He really is. I don't blame him though. I've done that for a couple of college matches where they're like, "Hey, we need a streamer, or a caster, and we don't have anybody else. You want to cast for your team?" And I'm like, "Great, let me do it." It is very hard not to say some unkind things to your own players sometimes. But
Look, if you do it, then you get accused of making disparaging remarks.
well, yeah, and that's
Any-
that's where
Anywho.
it's the most fun.
I
I
just
think
want to
while
point
we're
out.
talking about the stream situation and how it can get on nerves, I think it would be remiss if we did not mention the 2-2 in Rival last season between Lacuna and Hammerheads. Right, I believe those were Hammerhead's first 2 losses, and that was to a under 500 Lacuna team. So really, really fascinating. Exactly what you're talking about, where sometimes the team that comes in expecting to win, we should win this. It should be easy. It's easy to overlook the opposition and not play how you normally do, right? Try to look cool. Try to hit a clip on stream, right? When it all matters, though, it's all about the fundamentals and doing what got you to that point.
Yeah, and matchups play a big part of it too. Is when you're playing some of the better teams, you expect certain things. Whether it be a little bit more speed, earlier challenges, maybe some certain things like redirects, etc.
Sidewalls.
Right, and then you play against a team that's that's towards that's in a different part of the standings. The overall pacing alone can really throw you off, especially if scrims can be something too. You might scrim a team that's very slow, very methodical, and then you go up again during your match day, you go up against one of these speedy teams that just likes to demo against you, and all of a sudden you were just taking L's left and right because you were just getting caught flat-footed. So it's season's always fun. Let me just put it that way. I don't have a brand point to make. So
I'm going to move us into the break segments. It's around 1 hour and 20 already, and we still have another full segment after this here. Buddies, I had an option that I sent over to the admins as a potential for next season to generate rival matchups, because they keep trying to force rivalries in RSC, and it doesn't feel like it works out very well. With players and teams shifting either division or from teams in general. I suggested that within a division, teams are given a dedicated rival. They can try to work it out amongst themselves that they'd like, or, if they can't find one, it's created for them. With this rivalry, it would be multiple seasons long, but each season, whoever comes away with the best franchise v franchise rivalry matchup, you get to take 1 marble from their marble lottery race.
Ooh.
Any tier?
Any tier.
Oh, that'd be spicy.
That sounds really cool. I think that's a good prize. It's a good incentive to make it fun, make it worth trying to actually push for, but also not too much. It's not too impactful to where I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and I in the past and also too, I guess currently with the backdraw tournament, I always wanted to try and incentivize that a little bit more for both players and GMs by adding a little bit of minute odds to the to the draft lottery, because initially it wasn't before it was marbles, it was it was straight odds. So it's like, okay, hey, if your team winds up being a backdraw tourney winner, add point whatever to your lottery odds. Yeah. That would that way you don't have, because running it the first few times, and honestly as it currently stands, it pulls decent turnout, but it's not 100% turnout or 80% turnout. It's closer to 60 to 70 on a good season.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I like rivalries. Rivalries are fun, right, Rob?
Listen, man, you never know what ends up happening.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd end up teaming with them. Maybe
Exactly.
you end up on a podcast.
Exactly. Or
Who knows, man?
or
Well,
maybe you're
and
in the
that's
same house with somebody and
oh
you
my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
and you
yeah,
constantly talk crap with them, or maybe
yeah.
you were somebody's AGM previously, and now anytime you run up against them, you gotta
Mhm.
get a dig in somewhere.
Well, that's
It
why I figured forming friendly rivalries as a team-based incentive program instead of doing like player, because everybody moves around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're a GM, there's a decent chance you're going to be in a different franchise. I mean, season 15, 16, 17, I was in different franchises all across the board. Uh, but I figured stealing one marble would be just enough to incentivize it, but not like totally throw the league and out of whack.
Yeah.
But also, like somebody responded with the mentality of, well, they could just do it for pride. And I'm like, well, then we're just where we're at now. You change nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I agree. I also well, no, here. Do either of you guys have any final thoughts on that?
no,
For rivalries, like, I mean, it's definitely different me being a GM because it's a lot easier since a lot of the other GMs,
Yeah.
AGM. So it's a little bit more. I guess I'm a little bit more in it for me, just because it's easier to just be like, oh hey, week 7, we play you guys in 5 tiers, right? And
Yeah.
I love. I used to have bets with, say, like, Chilean, where it's like, all right, hey, we got whoever's franchise comes out with the most wins at the end of the season, the other GM has to buy the other franchise's hoodie or
That'd be
jersey or
cool.
something. And honestly, I'm a little sad. I don't have anybody else's jersey, so like I did good by winning the bet, but also some of those jerseys look cool, so I might need to get on that.
after the
But
podcast, I'll put it in series suggestions. I had already sent it to a couple people that were higher up and been like, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, oh, we'll think about it. But like, I think the league might want to, I don't know, just at least take a peek, think about it themselves.
yeah, the only trouble is just with the marble thing is it's still a little bit more GM based than it is necessarily individual, like, player based to a certain extent.
But it comes
Mhm.
top down. Like, if
It
like
does.
I have allegiance to Rob, let's say I'm in his franchise and Rob's like, God, I hate that those
Here.
that
That
cheese
so-
tour. Like,
No, well, you're right. Like when there was a little bit of that last season when the Cosmos and the Mythos were like fighting for the top spot for win rate in the RSC, and we played them like in 4 tiers on match day, like 14 out of 16 or something, right?
Right.
And we had a little franchise meeting before, and it was like, look, guys, like, we care about every series, but like this one is to end up with the best win rate in RSC. Like, this is playoffs. Like, let's show them we're gonna meet these guys in the playoffs in a bunch of different tiers, right? This is let's show them. So like, those rivalries sometimes naturally occur, but like from that GM perspective, it is really cool when, like, I met Nick M, GM of the Garden in Boston. I met I'm not gonna dox him. Turbo Alpaca, also in Boston.
Yeah.
It was like, it's cool, right? Like, now I care more about playing their franchises. Like, I care about playing Tech because I talk to Tech. I care about. So if we were able to almost facilitate playing against each other in a way that feels more meaningful, I think that would be really cool.
All right,
Yeah.
that does it. We're gonna have to have a GM. We're gonna have to have a GM 32 person meetup.
God.
So
God.
that way we can really get these rivalries hammered out, right?
Mhm.
Just don't pit me against Shamu. That guy's got my number every
Yeah,
time.
he's got
Um,
everyone's, man.
Yeah, so it's we do what we can. But no, it it's like you said, certain match days, it's like, hey, we're up against so and so. It means a little bit more to me personally, so you guys better show out.
Yeah.
But also, I will say there's one other fun thing about on a particular match day is there have been multiple times where both myself and Dyer have thrown out an announcement to our franchise and said, listen, guys, if we can get this number of wins, our total win percentage is at 69, and we gotta get that.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Oh my god.
Gotta
Let's
communicate mid-match day about how to. Whether you want to win or lose the next match.
speaking of next match day.
No, not yet. Not yet.
We're
not yet.
We're an hour and a
Us.
half. I want to go to bed.
That's fine, but I started doing this record watch thing.
All right,
there's
what do you
some
got?
records to watch.
What do you
So
got? What do you got?
I'll be fast. Starting at the top this time, Wicked, who was on pace, he had 22 assists in Premier through week 2, is now up to 27, and the record is 59. So he is approaching halfway there already, which is, in my opinion, someone who's really threatening to break that is about halfway to this record already. They can slow down their pace and still get really close. So Wicked about halfway there in Premier and assists. In Master, the MVP record is 24. Mimic was there at 10. He was in first. And now Jackson the Boss, speaking of Shamu, his Master team, Jackson's at 12 already, with the record being 24. So halfway there. Now, these are the two most likely records to fall, in my opinion, this season. We've talked about them a few times already, but Laban in Rival is putting up some unfathomable save numbers. The saves record in Rival is 121. They are already at 63. Over halfway there, she is absolutely cooking. Savior's record is 20. Laban has 14. 70% of the way to the record, and we're on week 3.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what do you tell other teams? Like, keep shooting on me, or stop shooting on me? Because if they stop shooting on Laban, then should have a better chance at in getting those W's. But also, if you want the record, keep sending them my way, right?
Mhm.
So
absolutely. So there's that, and then so this is an honorable mention. I don't have the specific numbers because they aren't tracked as vigorously as other things are, like cycles and whatnot. But demos, there's Angel, I think, is about to break all of the demo records. I believe they already have like 150.
Angel's a
some of
vet, right?
I think
for Bearden?
I'm not sure. I saw some talk of it in RSC General.
Yeah,
Angel
Brames, who's on that team, let me know that she gets enough demos and scrims that teams leave scrims. Like,
it's insane.
People quit.
I believe she's already like about to break the record. I will have this.
Match. I will have on display. I thought Brames and then Bearden. That's my bad.
I will have this particular one updated for the next podcast so we can really keep up with it. And then in Challenger, assists record is 62. Pink Pepper is already at 29 assists. And in Contender, the goal record is 85. And then Light_MCC had 31 last time we were here. They're up to 36, but they missed 6 games. So their pace isn't actually slowing down. They must have just been busy or something, probably. But they're still almost halfway to that record, missing 6 games. I think they could still keep that pace. So all of those are in serious jeopardy of breaking. Okay, boss, now we can go to the next segment. Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the only game that's scheduled next week because nobody registered for the 10:30 slot on Monday or either the slots on Wednesday yet. They're all totally open, people. What is it? Let's see. We've got Gluttony versus Dagon. Match day 7 at 10:50. So, looking at we have a fancy spreadsheet on our end that we can look at that you guys just can't see because we're just that much cooler. That breaks down what are going to be the closest matchups across the league, and that is literally the second closest by far. It's 1 and 2 in Tendy. Like they're ready to duke it out and see who's going to be number 1.
Yeah, how do you pick against Dagon? Right, like, how can you?
I would say by going with the other team. I think that's how you do it.
Okay, you're a funny guy. Funny guy. Funny guy.
Because
Oh my
honestly,
goodness.
I would say honestly, Gluttony's hungry for wins. I think they want that
Holy
number one
cow.
spot, and you know, hopefully, and you know, just based off of previous experience, you know, Tech's teams and regular season streams don't seem to go well. So, you know, there's a chance that they might get eaten alive by this Gluttony
Oh
team.
my gosh.
You know, and again too, we saw it with Hammerheads, right? They got on stream, they're a top team, you know, and they let the ball drop, well, specifically into their net a couple of times. So
well, where do you see
know,
the matchup, Moose? If you were to make a prediction, what are you putting this matchup at?
Oh, I'm putting it at 2-2. That's just a tech that's the tech curse. You know, I think Dagon will do just fine. But again, stream games are always something extra, right? You're to a certain extent, like, I don't want, like, we are all kind of, you know, there's a reason they call it esports, right? We emulate what athletes do in a lot of cases. We have we have warm-ups, right? We have rituals, routines, etc. And sometimes when you take your pre-game pee at a different time, or you don't, you stay up a little bit later, you had a longer day at work, sometimes things get a little screwy. You add in a little bit extra pressure, you never know what can happen. Plus, if Bas is calling out your name during the stream, guaranteed he's gonna curse you.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I have actually not had a caster curse this season so far. It's been pretty good. It's been pretty good.
He just opened his mouth. It's
Yeah,
confirmed.
now
It's
it's done.
Crazy,
It's over.
crazy. You know what?
So-
Just because you said that, I registered to cast for that day.
Let's go.
Piggybacking off that though, Moose, when you're talking about this, the rituals and whatnot, especially in these lower tiers, a lot of these players have never had people watch them before, right? Like there's a real chance they could have not only just a bunch of RSC eyes on them, but they could toss the link to their real life friends who have never seen them compete or play Rocket League before. They could toss it to their parents, their family. Hey, this is what I'm doing with my time. This is how I'm trying to improve. And so a lot of that added pressure can be put on them from themselves, and that can affect their performance in ways that we haven't seen. So I think you do bring up a good point about how that can impact a simple matchup like that.
Right. And if there's one thing I'm good at, it's disappointing my parents. So,
But you have 4 titles, Moose.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, here's the thing. I've sent them the link, and they're no joke. I sent them the link for last season, and I got a message from them after it was already over. When does it start? And I was
No.
heartbroken.
My grandma watches every stream and all of my CRL matches, and she's in here right now watching the podcast.
Honestly,
Hey,
Shout out my grandma.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going now. I'm just going. Fuck everybody else.
Do your thing, boss.
All right, like I was trying to say, Rob, you're right. People reach out to a lot of, like, if you go back to match day 1, Shock versus Strawberries, there's like a dozen people in the chat that are just Dondo's friends outside of RSC. They're not there for, they're not players. There's a lot of added pressure because your friends and your family do support you. And shout out to your grandma for getting a subscription to the Pre-Jump podcast.
Yeah, she got
at like week 6 last
gifted a sub, and then we switched channels.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Yeah.
What are you putting in, Rob? Where are you putting that matchup?
I'm gonna go 3-1 Dagon. And I'm probably gonna be wrong because I usually am. But like I like numbers a lot, and I think that numbers are a good way of, they're not perfect, but when you are trying to predict the unpredictable, which is just general performance, I think this is the easiest way to do it. It's the most effective way to do it. And when you have you have the single top 2 RPVs in the tier, you are on pace to have the best season in RSC history. You have 4 RPVs on your team above a 65. You don't lose. Your GM just set the win record and won the title. You have all of the help around you. I don't know. It's a 3-1 from Dagon, and Gluttony is great. They seem to be putting up a lot of stats. but it's not the well-rounded domination that we've seen from Dagon so far.
I'm gonna predict it based upon what I casted last season, because the Tech 4 curse does exist. It is there. I saw it with Cathilla twice. I saw it with with Moose's team. I was like, buddy, if there is a consistent factor, it's Tech 4 going 2-2 on stream. So I have to put money down that it's Tech going 2-2.
No way, neither of you picked the team to win. I'm the only one.
No, it's going to be. It happens.
Oh
It's
my
just a
gosh.
fact.
That's fine.
I say now, if you want to start throwing in some prop bets on like over under for total goals during the series,
Yeah.
now we're especially with football season and every BetMGM and FanDuel advertisement that's been thrown my way, it's like, holy cow. When is Vegas gonna get in on RSC?
I swear. What are my odds to win Master right now? I need to know according to Boveda.
Dude, we just need to get an RSC fantasy league going. Like,
Listen,
somebody needs to make
listen.
it happen.
I'd be,
You draft 5
let's
players
talk.
across any tier, and you follow all of their stats. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I'm 100% with it, and I think you could play. Oh my goodness, hold on. We cook. I'm okay. I'm gonna get to this. I genuinely.
that's gonna be another project. Honestly, if that could get going, that could have a lot of fun. Granted, I think you definitely have to do it as more of like almost like a pick'em than like an actual, like, I guess, a more standard fantasy draft. But
You could really take the stats though. All of the ball chasing's recorded. You could assign point values to demos, points.
You have to put
score.
limitations on drafting in your own tier.
Yeah, but you could pretty easily just do a standard roster where you have to draft one player in every single tier.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, let's say I'm playing against you, Rob, like in fantasy, and we're playing, I'm playing against Moose on the pitch, so like on the actual Rocket League pitch, and you've got me on your team. I'm gonna be like, maybe I suck tonight. Maybe I lose some RSC matches to win fantasy.
No one would. You just can't draft anyone on your team. Probably would be the rule. That way, you aren't able. It doesn't affect any competitive balance that we have.
That's what I was saying. Like, maybe it shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to also be on the team that's like you're going against.
Yeah,
that'd be so funny though. Could you imagine? I've got Bas and Bas and Rob against me in a 2-on-1. And I just full send it Bas because he's against her. He's against fantasy, and I'm like, well, if Rob gets the goal, no big deal. But if Bas
fine.
me, then that's the end of the world. Like, even though Rob's got it on his hood and he's ready for the flick, and there's no shot he's passing it, like,
just go kill Bas. Yeah.
It's like I gotta protect my numbers.
Hey, sorry, man. I didn't mean to demo you like specifically 13 times this game, but I'm going against you in fantasy, and I had to make sure you didn't influence the game.
Yeah, not only time 0 boost, but time off the frickin' field. Like, that'd be something. And I think most players would probably keep that out of their minds as they're playing. I can only imagine that intrusive thought sneaking in, right as you're taking a shot. It's like, oh, I got myself for tonight, and then all of a sudden, crossbar.
Maybe then what we do is we do a redraft style league, right? When every new season starts, and you can only draft players not in the same tier as you. And so
that's what I was saying. It'd be solid.
I thought you were saying, but no. Also, like aren't you also talking about other people having the same issue though?
Well, no. If you don't draft people in your tier, if you're like competing against other people in different tiers, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Because then you never have that matchup issue.
Yeah.
I
must have just misunderstood or misheard something that you said. So I thought I was suggesting something different.
It's only the GMs that run into a mildly small ethical quandary.
Just like bench someone one day, be like, oh, you
guys
points? You had my best player in prospect?
Hey, man. I have faith in your 3 teammates, Rob, but I need to let you know that tonight I have to bench you. I'm going against Moose this week. I can't let him beat me in fantasy, man. He'll rub it in my face for the week.
You should have a GM only Fantasy League 2 that
Oh
way.
god.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Nothing like finding out how much actual confidence you have in your team, because it's like, oh yeah, on paper I'm telling all my teams, it's like, you guys got this, you're winning a
Yeah.
championship, and then I go turn around and I'm like,
I go draft all the other players in fantasy.
and then
Oh.
I'm like, nope, I'm taking all of
Yeah.
Tech's players. I have no faith in
Yeah.
any of my guys. They're all bad. Like,
Dude,
I can only
that's so
imagine.
bad.
Draft.
You're
like
like,
imagine
God,
you had 2 Hammerheads players on your team. Oh,
Dude,
that's so many.
you
stats.
get done with a replay review and you look at it and you go, well, I know they're not going to be able to defend the aerial shot, and Lilo's playing against them, so I'm going to go pick up Lilo off a waiver wire real quick.
Yeah. Oh man.
There's a lot of potential here.
Right, and this is how you wind up with people going back and getting those ball chase replays, and then they're screaming, they're screaming at a replay file. It's like, how did you miss that shot? I lost this week by 2 points.
I lost
You
my
would've got-
matchup. You hit the post. It was open.
Right.
My
So
God.
like, I think it would be a lot of fun. Obviously, I think it's again just another thing where you gotta remember it's a for fun league. You can't take it too seriously. I can't go message, I can't just go message, like Shoddy and just be like, bro, why did you sell tonight? I had you start, I had you start. Like, as long as it doesn't come down to that. And sometimes with this league you wonder, because we had to remove like the sweep emote from score reporting because things got a little spicy.
You cost me a fantasy RSC matchup tonight. Not only are you D&D, but I'm going to make sure that your next cut note is terrible.
Yeah.
Oh no, that just
I'm gonna Photoshop your response to say that you were okay going on IR.
oh no.
Well, guys, we've talked about predictions and everything else for, I think this is technically week 21 of the podcast. How, you guys have anything else left to say, or are we all set for the night?
Go team.
Go team.
That's pretty much all I got. Go my team. Go podcast. Go RSC. Go my franchise. Slowly.
There's the home ring. There's the home ring. Oh
There's
my
the
gosh.
home ring.
Look at this
It
guy,
wouldn't-
man.
Listen, I got yelled at
RSC
earlier.
podcast unless we
Yeah.
homered a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, we're doing all right for ourselves. I'll give myself a small pat on the back. I'll give my AGMs a bigger pat on the back because I don't want to do half the work, and they do. So we'll take it. But yeah, go team. That's all I got. You guys are awesome. Always a fun time. Go chat. Chat was good. They were in here.
Yeah, go chat. You have your whole master team in chat right now, actually.
Half you don't do any. He's not even wrong. I'm a figurehead.
That's crazy. Well, for everybody else who's been watching, thanks for joining us tonight. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy.